Well, I mean, we oftentimes say love has gone intersectional, and I say hate has also gone intersectional. And the alliances that people are seeing right now, and they're confused why so many Black Americans and Black Christians are standing up for these Arabs and Muslims in foreign issues, because for the past several years, there has been alliances where people have decided to carry each other's water, right? And they realize, okay, racial freedom, dignity, equality. This is what our ancestors did in the 60s, right? It wasn't just Black rights. On the backs of the civil rights movement, we passed the Immigration Nationality Act of 1965, which allowed my dad from Pakistan to come to this country, which allowed Nikki Haley's brown father and family to come to this country, right? So these movements have always been intertwined. And also in this particular issue, what we have seen is that the Israel war in Gaza has been manipulated and hijacked by bad faith actors on the right who are also using it to attack, wait for it, wokeness, which then became CRT, which now has become DEI. I gave you Claudine Gay of Harvard, right? We saw, Black people remember that Mark Lamont Hill got fired from CNN for that comment, even though he gave a very eloquent, I think it was in the Philadelphia Inquirer, where he really explained himself, right? And at the very least, okay, give him a slap on the wrist, but nope, you're out, Mark Lamont Hill. And Keith Ellison, Black Muslim a congressman who's now the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, a couple of years ago, ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt went after him. And this man, and I just want to tell folks, I remember I told Jonathan of the ADL, the big mistake that he made. I said, listen, you guys usually go after Arabs and Muslims, right? And Keith is Muslim. Keith is against BDS. Keith has gone to Israel. Keith is for a two-state solution. Keith has the backing of a lot of Jews who are Zionists and pro-Israel. And you're telling us that Keith, because he was telling some Muslims, hey, you got to lobby like AIPAC lobbies. AIPAC's playing the game. You got to play the game. And you saw that as an example of anti-Semitism. You're not just losing Muslims and Arabs. Black people are paying attention to this, and so are progressives. And then you saw what happened to Claudine Gay, kept warning Jewish American allies. This will be a wedge issue. Black folks are paying attention to this. And then you saw Christopher Rufo, the architect behind the bullshit anti-CRT measure, which is literally, Danielle, a remake of the anti-Sharia playbook that they launched before the midterm elections in 2010. And voila, they just go right into it. And Biden, as this is happening, and as the Democrats know they need a multiracial coalition, guess what he's doing? They're caving to bad faith Republican talking points over the border. So Latinos are paying attention to this as well. And what I keep telling them is people are like, okay, we have one side that openly says that they hate us and are aligned with white nationalists and white supremacists and leading anti-Semites. And the other party is the Inshallah party. Get us in and Inshallah, we'll help you. But we're going to kick the can down the road. And by the way, we have you hijacked in a way. Because, hey, do you want white nationalists or do you want us? Because at least we ain't white nationalists. So what are you going to choose, darky? You better choose. And to be honest, Danielle, that's the choice they've given us right now. Hey, Muslims, do you want Trump, who wants a Muslim ban, or do you want us, where we barely feign empathy? Hey, Black people, do you want the guy who says that the white supremacists are very fine people, or at least me who condemn that? What do you want? And a lot of voters are like, I don't want either. And I was just going to say, and so a lot of voters are saying, I don't want either. And so where does that leave us? That leaves us with the diehard, older, white, racist constituency of the MAGA supremacists who will make sure that they go to the polls because regardless, they're aligned on turning Trump into a martyr, turning him into a king. That's what they want above all else. And here you have all of these different groups, all of the examples that you provided from the Latino and Hispanic community, the Black community, the Muslim community, the progressives, Generation Z, millennials. You have all of these groups that you just laid out that have issue, and it is falling on non-listening ears. Right? Because I'm looking, and every time that there's an announcement that the Biden campaign is making about who they're adding, I'm like, so it's the same old fucking players? Like, oh, well, we just added John Podesta. I don't give a fuck. Of all the people, John Podesta. Talk about an establishment man.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we are living right now, as we say every week on this show, historical, apocalyptic times, right? And the Biden campaign is rolling out the same players as if it is the year 2000, as if it is a 1990s election or 1990s America. And so when I said this on Woke AF this week, I said, I'm going to be honest with folks. I don't know if Biden is up to the job. And when I say that, I don't mean it because he's because he's going to be 80 years old. I mean it because his thinking is not in the moment of crisis, right? And that we are in. He is not operating as a wartime president, as we said that our friend and colleague Jason Johnson had said on MSNBC, is that we need a wartime president because the Republican Party is at war. They have put billions of dollars into building the infrastructure of the new world order that they want. And Biden still thinks that he can call them up and have a scotch. And I'm like, what the fuck reality are you living in?
1965. Maybe 1982. It's one of those situations where Republicans want to take us back to 1953 before Board versus Brown. And I feel like this Democratic establishment wants to take us back to the Bill Clinton 90s era, right? The neoliberal era. Pre-Obama, by the way. Notice both are pre-Obama, right? And I think the black president, the Muslim black president, who's not Muslim, but people still think he's Muslim.
I know.
Really, the black president, the rise of women, the rise of the gays, the fact that there's Muslim women elected to office, the fact that young people, are kind of radically questioning capitalism. All of this is too much for all those in power. And what they're doing right now is sandbagging. They're sandbagging, what is an inevitable change. Now, whether or not this means people become more progressive or conservative, I don't know. But people want to change because the system has not helped them. The system that they were taught to believe in, raise yourself up from the bootstraps and America will help you. I'm like, it doesn't help me. There's only two things guaranteed in life, death and taxes. Rich people don't pay taxes. What are you talking about?
Nope.
Right? The first generation that is actually going to be poorer off than their parents' generation. And you're expecting them to fight for a system that only oppresses them and to uphold a system that has shown them nothing but contempt and disregard. And, eventually people break, Danielle. Eventually people break and they want something new. They want something different. So I feel like the Democrats are desperately sandbagging ahead of a pivotal 2024 election where we are up against a four-time, is it four-time? He's been
indicted four times,
indicted
91
criminal counts. We were waiting as of this recording to see what the judge in New York, who's already said that he is guilty of fraud, what the punishment's going to be and whether or not Trump can operate businesses in New York. Regardless, his base doesn't care. And the fact that E. Jean Carroll has won a massive lawsuit against him for defamation. That was after she already won a lawsuit in which he was held liable for sexual assault, rape folks in a civil trial, and who said he will be a dictator for a day, just for a day. And so we're stuck. And I feel it's one of those situations where push comes to shove. Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially black voters, are going to be like, all right, well, we'll do the right thing because black voters have generally always done the right things. But there's something here to be said that I think the Democratic establishment is playing with fire. Yep. They're taking their base for granted. They're taking young people for granted. And they believe because Trump is such a big threat and that abortion rights are at stake, that might be enough. And it might be enough, Danielle. It might be enough for Biden to barely win again. But what's next then, Danielle? What's next?
And that is such a good question because I think that much in the same way that we had this conversation ahead of the 2020 election, right? Where we were saying to ourselves, well, if Biden wins, then we get to go back to normal. Then the adults get to be back in the room. And obviously what we've seen over the last 4 years is that is anything but the truth, that we have become more divided than ever, that this country is faltering in so many different spaces and places, whether it is healthcare, whether it's climate change, whether it's voting rights, abortion, LGBTQ equality, all of these things are faltering, right? Because of the fault lines of white supremacy and racism and misogyny and patriarchy that we've chosen to just put a rug over, right? We put the rug over the fault line. And so what comes next, my concern, and this is a conversation that people are not having, is that even if Biden wins, I don't believe we're out of danger, right? Like, I don't think that people are prepared for what the MAGA supremacists are willing and capable of doing either way, whether it's Trump is in or Trump is out, right? These people have shown no signs of slowing.
Oh, and that judge, the warning the judge gave, remember, to the jurors?
Just last week? Yes. And again, we gloss over that in the media. The judge gives a warning and says, do not tell people that you were on this case, right? Stay anonymous. Stunning. And that should be stunning. That is outrageous to say. Because what the judge recognizes is that we are in a dangerous, volatile climate, and you could be putting your life and the life of your family and friends and those close to you at risk.
Because you were part of the jury that held Trump liable for defamation against E. Jean Carroll. And as of today, an article came out that lawmakers are increasingly terrified of, it's in roll call, swatting. Yes. Okay, and for those who don't know what that means when a bad faith actor deliberately lies and reports a fake threat, and the SWAT show up, and in the chaos, those SWAT members got guns, Danielle. Mm-hmm. People die. And so now our elected officials are held essentially as prisoners by a radicalized, weaponized MAGA base. I don't know if folks remember, but we had a fascinating conversation with McKay Coppins, reporter from The Atlantic, who did the biography on Romney. And he said that Romney basically has paid thousands of dollars every month for security for his family. And the Republicans that he interviewed for the book off the record say, we are terrified of our own base. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And those are Republicans.